Yesterday we read about unwise consideration, how when we attempt at first consider the incoming data carelessly, the incoming data via the 5 sense faculties, eye to forms, ear to sounds, nose to smells, tongue to taste, the body to tangibles. When the mind attend to all this incoming data via the 5 senses carelessly with unwise consideration, the sense objects will tend to stir up unwholesome states. It can be either springs up directly or it can be deposited as a memory trace. What is the example for depositing memory trace? One day, I saw an advertisement for Tim Ho-Wan, a very nice bun, and there's a promotion, 50% off. Yeah, that was probably a month ago. And then yesterday, when I considered what to eat, I don't know what to eat. Suddenly, the thought of Tim Ho-Wan came to mind. Maybe it's nice to go to Tim Ho-Wan. So when I see the adverts and I attend to it carelessly, the defilement of greed deposited in my memory trace. And then it will swell up when the condition arises. Yeah. When is the condition arises? Yesterday it was when I was hungry, when I thought of what to eat. And then this memory trace springs up. That's one example. The general rule, attractive objects provoke desire, disagreeable objects provoke ill will, aversion, and indeterminate objects provoke delusion. And it was asked by Sing Hui as well, what do we mean by indeterminate objects? It's simply any objects that doesn't catch our attention because we are too caught up with the pleasant objects, and we are too also caught up, but in an aversive way, in an unpleasant objects. That was regarding how when we are not when we're doing unwise consideration, all of this can happen. Now we're going to explore how should we prevent this from happening. Since an uncontrolled response to the sensory input stimulates the latent defilements, what is evidently needed to prevent them from arising is control over the senses. Thus, the Buddha teaches as the discipline for keeping the hindrances in check, an exercise called the restraint of the sense faculties, Indriya Samvara. These lines are from the sutta itself. When he perceives a form with the eye, a sound with the ear, an odor with the nose, a taste with the tongue, an impression with the body, or an object with the mind, he apprehends neither the sign nor the particulars, and he strives to ward off that through which is evil and unwholesome states, greed and sorrow will arise if he remain with unguarded senses, and he watches over his senses, restrains his senses. The paragraph below will explain what this excerpt of the sutta is about. So, who shall read the next one? How about Jolene? Would you like to read?
Morning, brother, and everyone.
Morning.
So where do I start, brother? Restraint, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Restraint of the senses does not mean denial of the senses, retreating into a total withdrawal from the sensory world. This is impossible, and even it could be achieved, the real problem will still be there and not be solved. For the defilements to lie in the mind, not in the sense objects or organs. The key to sense control is indicated by the face, not apprehending the sign or the particulars. The sign, which is mean nimitta, is the object's general appearance insofar as this appearance is grasped as the basis for our defiled thoughts. The particulars, anuvijana, are its less conspicuous features. If sense control is lacking, the mind roams recklessly over the sense fields. First, it grabs the sign, which sets the defilements into motion. Then it explodes the particulars, which permits them to multiply and thrive.
Okay, thanks, Jolene. Let's read this next paragraph first before we explore and elaborate. Jolene, would you like to nominate next person to read?
Okay. Would Sister Saikel? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. To restrain the senses requires that mindfulness and clear understanding be applied to the encounter with the sense fields. Sense consciousness occurs in a series as a sequence of momentary cognitive acts, each having its own special task. The initial stages in the series occur as automatic functions. First, the mind adverts to the object, then apprehends it, then admits the percept, examines it, and identifies it. Immediately following the identification, a space opens up in which there occurs a free evaluation of the object, leading to the choice of a response. So when mindfulness is absent, the latent defilements, pushing for an opportunity to emerge, will motivate a wrong consideration. One will grasp the sign of the object, explore its details, and thereby give the defilements the opportunity. On account of greed, one will become fascinated by an agreeable object. On account of aversion, one will be repelled by a disagreeable object. But when one applies mindfulness to the sensory encounter, one needs the connective process in the bud before it can evolve into the stages that stimulate the dormant taints. So mindfulness holds the hindrances in check by keeping the mind at the level of what is sensed. It reverts awareness on the given, preventing the mind from embellishing the datum with ideas born of greed, aversion, and delusion. Then, with this loosened awareness as a guide, the mind can proceed to comprehend the object as it is, without being led astray.
Thanks, Saikel. This session, I thought, instead of me elaborating, I thought, why don't we hear from the man himself? So I have prepared a clip. So let me play it out. Share screen, share sound. Okay, I will mute myself and I will play this clip. I cannot see you, so let me know in the chat if the audio is okay when I play it. I will play it now.
So this is a practice which other places it's called the restraint of the sense faculties. And when we look at the other passage on the restraint of the sense faculties, we have an important key to what this practice entails. We find the other passage in Sutta number 27. This is on page 274. Paragraph 15. The text says, on seeing a form with the eye, he does not grasp at the signs and features, since if he left the eye faculty unguarded, evil, maybe bad, unwholesome states of covetousness or craving and grief or dejection might invade him. He practices the way of its restraint. He guards the eye faculty. He undertakes the restraint of the eye faculty, and so for the other senses. And so the key to this practice, as we can see from this passage, is not grasping, it's called what? Not grasping at the signs and features. The Pali text uses two technical terms here. Okay, the commentaries explain that the nimitta is the general, maybe the general characteristic of an object which serves as the basis for the arising of unwholesome states of mind. It can be the attractive feature of an object or the repulsive feature of the object. If it's the attractive feature of a sense object, then it serves as a base or stimulus for the arising of what's called here covetousness or craving. If it's a repulsive object, then it serves as the basis for the arising of what's called here grief, not such a satisfactory rendering. Maybe better is dejection, displeasure. And this could be understood as implying resentment, antagonism, hostility, aversion. And so often the mind just revolves back and forth between the attraction to what's appears to be pleasant and enjoyable, and repulsion or aversion to what is disagreeable. And so the way to overcome this sort of play of opposites in the mind is by exercising restraint over the sense faculties, not letting the mind grasp upon first the attractive and repulsive feature of the objects. So that is preventing nimitta gahi, the grasping of the general feature of the object. And then what's meant by anubhyanjana gahi is grasping the details of the object. And so this practice is taught especially for monastics who have to restrain the arising of any kind of sensual craving, as well as aversion due to the difficulties of living a very simple monastic life. But it can be practiced really by anybody who's intent on gaining control over the mind. Okay, the way these two work, just to give an example, this example that comes up many times in daily life. For example, say a man sees a pretty woman, there comes initially the input into the mind. The first impression, pretty woman. And then the mind grasps upon that quality of prettiness, that is nimitta gahi. Then because there comes that initial stimulus, then it seems the eye of its own accord, though really with the mind behind it, but it seems almost automatically the eye starts looking, nice, flowing brown hair or black hair, sparkling eyes, nice sweet smile, white teeth. So now Anubhyanjanagahi then starts moving down the body, nice breasts, nice waist, nice legs, nice feet, nice toes. Wait, crooked toes? Pigeon toes? And so now turning away from the attractive object to something repulsive, then starts looking back up at the face again. Wait, that nose is not so pretty. Big nose, crooked nose. Then the interest fades away. Okay, anyway, this is how the grasping of a pleasant object can take place. Then the grasping of painful objects, of disagreeable objects. This is an interesting phenomenon of the mind. What I've found, sometimes the mind will settle upon something which can be rather trifling, just very slightly annoying, and yet that comes to obsess the mind. I remember back many years ago when I started to meditate, this was when I was in graduate school, living in the residence hall at Claremont Graduate School. It seemed that whenever I sat to meditate, a dog about 2 blocks away would start barking. And it was just like a faint sound coming from the distance, but the mind would always settle on that dog, which somehow would start to bark as soon as I sat down. I might be studying maybe from 7:30 to 9 o'clock. Dog is quiet. 9 o'clock, I get my seat ready, sit down, cross my legs, settle in breath, out breath, in breath, bark! Out breath, in breath, out breath, woof, woof. In breath, out breath. This went on night after night, till I decided, this was a graduate residence hall. There were students in the other rooms, sometimes talking, maybe watching television. You get the sound of the television. Didn't bother me. But just one dog barking 2 blocks away, that's what the ear is picking up. And so what I did finally, I have to go to the people who own that dog and explain to them that I'm trying to meditate. At least they could be kind and understanding and put a muzzle on the dog so it wouldn't disturb my meditation. And so I would leave the residence hall, go walking down 2 blocks to the corner. The dog is still barking, woof, woof. But I get to the corner, and the dog is quiet. So which house is it? Should I go to every house on the block? Do you happen to have a dog that was barking 2 minutes ago? But then I thought the people are going to think I'm crazy. So I turn back, go back to the residence hall, everything is quiet. The dog has stopped barking. I can go back to my meditation, take the seat, cross the legs, in breath, out breath. I've succeeded. Dog is quiet. In breath, out breath. Wow, that really works. I just have to walk in the corner and the dog will stop. In breath. Wow. Out breath. Wow. 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 So this is picking up, this is called the patika nimitta, the repulsive object, disagreeable object. Patika nimitta. And then, even though one is trying to keep the mind on the breath, one starts picking up all of the details in that barking of the dog. Even from the very beginning of the woof, the rough sound of the woof. The amount of time between one woof and another, all of those details become clear. Okay, so this is the way the mind picks up the features of disagreeable objects. And so what one has to do here, well, there are different ways to deal with this. One way, of course, is to just try not to pay attention to that disagreeable object and just go back to the main meditation object, in breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. But I found after some time that this didn't work so successfully. And so what I found to be a useful method, I picked this up in a book on mindfulness practice called The Heart of Buddhist Meditation. What I found is the useful method is to turn the attention to the object itself and to the mind's reaction to the object. So one just listens to the barking sound of the dog, just listening to sheer sound, not evaluating it as something interrupting my meditation, not something being done with malicious intent to disturb my meditation, but just, this is the play of conditions. People have dogs in the neighborhood, dogs bark, that's the sound of a barking dog. In fact, you could even suspend the idea of a dog barking, and it's just a sound, a bare sound. And then one can note how the sound takes place, how the mind catches onto the sound, even almost obstinately fastening on the sound, and then how annoyance and irritation arise based on that sound. And one just watches the sound, watches the act of hearing, watches the irritation that arises. And then one is practicing, it's actually part of the fourth satipatthana, the attention to, he knows the sound, he knows the ear, and he knows the fetter that arises on both. So in this way, something that's irritating can be transformed into something which is a basis for insight and understanding. Okay, and then after one starts attending to the sound for some time in this way, then it loses its disagreeable tone, and it just becomes part of the background. And so it falls off into the background, and then one can go back to the in and out breathing.
Okay, that's the clip that I prepared, particularly for this specific 2 or 3 paragraphs. How do you like it? Good? Okay, that's great. And so I went a little bit over time, but I feel like it's a good clip not to share, too good not to share. Any questions or comments? Tomorrow we will take a look at one last time at these 2 paragraphs, and maybe we can comment both on the clip and also elaborate on what we have read. So for today, Do you guess? Chai Kwan, is it? No, okay, because I thought Chai Kwan is reaching for the mic. Okay. If not, then we can continue tomorrow to take a look at this part one last time before moving on to the next factor of the right effort. This Xinghui, is it? Do you want to?
Yeah, I just want to check. Just now he mentioned if we just observe it, understand it, and then after that it will just go away, is it?
Yes, that's how he explains it. Yes. In the case of the dog, initially he was irritated because he attended it with unwise consideration, like we read much earlier and yesterday. So what he tried to do is very relatable to me, because initially he tried to deal with it externally, trying to find the owner of the dog, put a muzzle on the dog. Then he realized, oh, this sounds like a crazy idea. People might think it's crazy. After he walked down, and then he decided to walk back again. The second try he will do, okay, there are two ways. The first way that he mentioned is that just try to ignore the barking sounds. Yeah, but he mentioned this one sometimes will not work that well. The second way is when he reads through this book, a mindfulness book. I forget the exact title. When he read through the book, he said that just try to, when you pick up the sound, try to observe why it makes you irritated, why it annoys you. Yeah, just to observe what's actually happening in this mind. Why is it disagreeable? And listen to the sound and then try to analyze it. And then we will come to the conclusion that this is just another sound. It's just a play of conditions. It's not just the dog barking. Sometimes there's a traffic noise. And like he mentioned, roommates playing TV or talking. All of these are just sounds. Yeah. And then after we realize this, sounds come because of conditions, then we will start to dissipate the aversion towards the sound. Your example, probably the smoking, the smoker, and then when you meditate, some smoke coming in to the nose. Well, one way you could deal with that is, of course, talk to the smoker directly. Hey, uncle, your smoke disturbs me. That is the way to deal it externally, which is not that wrong as well. But there's also a way to deal it internally, which is just try to consider, why is there smoke? Why do you smell the smoke? Of course, there's a condition of a smoker and someone smoking, and of course, is your neighbor, and the neighbor likes to smoke. So these are all plays of conditions. Yeah, it might not makes your aversion disappear completely, but it could help to dissipate. Yeah, that's a good question. Does it make sense?
It sounds like we have to eventually cycle ourselves that it should not matter. Yeah.
Yes, the point is, there's a limit to how much we can take care of it externally, in a worldly way. Sometimes it's just not possible. For example, traffic noise. How can you ever completely turn away or make traffic noise disappear? Unless you live in the forest, then you will always hear the traffic noise. Especially if your block is just away from the main road, that will be even greater. Yeah. When we can deal with it externally, we try to do that, but we know that there is a limit to what we can do. Yeah. So in the end, we should still deal with it internally. That's how I see it. Good question. Good question. How about others? Any questions or comments? Yes, Jolene.
I think the part about what Bhikkhu Bodhi, Venerable Bhikkhu Bodhi just said is more about what distracts us during our meditative state. So during those meditative state, let's say it's a smoke smell or a sound that actually it could has been there, whether we meditate or not. It's just that we were not more aware about it. Maybe the smoker did smoke throughout the day, but we are not aware of it. It's just that when we meditate, that became very obvious to us. So what I think, the dog barks throughout the day. I'm sure he don't barks at 9:15 when Venerable actually does his meditation. But because you're so quiet in your mind, you actually capture things that we don't when we actually are not meditating. But this is a time of practicing our mind, which is a great time to practice our mind, right? And so what Venerable just taught us was actually very similar to Sen Yan Fa Sư, who is a Zen master. He actually talked about 16个真言. Okay, so every time we see something, number one is to be aware of it. Number two is to accept it. Number three is actually indirectly, internally you deal with it. And then the last one, you have to let go of it. So whether it starts our mind training at a meditative state, and then when in real life, when things happen adversely, we will carry the same attitude to handle it in this way. So what Venerable just teach, right, besides of just going straight to our breath, because sometimes going away to the breath is like avoiding it. But sometimes your mind still linger and say, that dog, stop it. I'm concentrating my breath. It may be a bit too forceful. So your mind cannot just go straight and, and say, go straight here. In fact, your mind at the back still may be thinking about it. So that's why I think what Venerable just said makes very good sense, is that we don't push it, but we kind of accept it. And then we say to ourselves, at this moment, I'm meditating. What's more important? I'm here for I'm here just to be more aware. But if I take this time to hate it, then I waste all my time in a cushion, right? So that's where we draw ourselves back to say, hey, this is a good time to train ourselves to accept it first. But it may not mean that you carry on, let the person smoke in front of you. That's not what I'm saying. But during the meditative state of our mind, this is the key part. It's not about the smoke anymore. It's our mind training time. Yeah, so I think that sets us in a priority. In a meditation, what is our priority? And then when we're out of this meditation, of course, if it is a smoke that comes and harms our family or harms the neighborhood, maybe we can bring it up and have a think about it, how to handle it, depend on your relationship with someone, right? Yeah. So I think it's a separate matter, whether you like or don't like the smoke, but the more importantly is during your meditation, what's our priority? It's our mind training time. Yeah. So I think that's where Bhikkhu Bodhi brought up this step by step, right? Yeah. And that's what it means, I think. Yeah.
That's a good point, I think, Darlene. Yeah, this is in fact the good opportunity when something disagreeable happens during your meditative states to actually practice, to even practice more. And I also like that Jolene brings up Master Sheng Yan. I've been watching some clips of Master Sheng Yan. I think it's really good on YouTube. It's available. There's English translation as well. But if you know Chinese, you will probably get the meaning much better. So that's one. Did you guys watch the movie Master Sheng Yan? How many of you watched? Not yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, yeah. If you haven't, go watch it. It's really good. I cried twice during during the movie. So that's
maybe I help to translate in Chinese the Master Sheng Yan's 16 六字 言.
Sure.
So she said is to 面对它 to face it, then after that 接受它 to accept it, then 处理它 to deal with it, and 最后放下它 to let it go. And I just want to share something about my initial meditation. Your mind just grasps onto one thing, one after another. After you settle first thing, it will go and grasp onto something. For example, initially, I'm very aware of the fan sound, the fan moving, creating sound. Then after a while, I go back to my breath, and then the sound sort of like later disappear. But then the next thing crop up. I start to very aware of my swallowing, so I keep swallowing. Then I get very irritated by it. So your mind just grabs onto one thing after the next. After you settle one thing, it just automatically go to the next sense, like after that, if your swallowing disappear, then, your leg pain comes, that kind of thing. Yeah, so I fully agree with Sister Jolene to say that how we deal with each and every, thing that comes up is a training of the mind. Yeah. So it's really a good opportunity to look at how our mind, how this mind grasps onto things. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. And even though there's no external stimulation, right? And then suddenly the thoughts of the past invades the mind. And then the thoughts of future invades the mind. Yeah. So it's very interesting how our mind works. And it's interesting to observe it as well. And yeah, like Jolene mentioned, train your mind. Very good, very good. Thanks for sharing. Sing Hui, Jolene, and Sai Ken. How about the rest? Any comments as well? Okay, if not, Sing Hui, yeah.
So the end outcome would be we would then be a lot more calmer in our daily life, is it? As in we will not get agitated so easily. Will that be the end outcome after we have like more or less trained our mind?
That's what happens to me, I would say. How about others?
I think number one is that when something happened, you have a tendency that you look at it a little bit, you won't react so quickly. There's a tendency that somehow you will pause a bit more, not like if before we train our mind, everything we see, we want to go and do it or something. You're kind of like, is it, do I need to react to that? For example, right, in the past, if we were eating, and if there's a horn along the road, somebody will like go and see the door. Now I won't even look at it anymore. I just continue eating. It doesn't bother me anymore, for example. So it's like, it's not that's something that you'll be attracted to every single senses that's around you anymore. It's like, it's not so important. It's not that, I don't know how to explain it, but you'll start to feel that there's a change of some kind of a reaction. You might not react to every single thing. You will still react, but sometimes your friend may say, why you react a bit slow? So maybe you have to get your friend to get used to you a bit. Yeah, so wait to me, so but there's a tendency that, but it's not that you're retarded or slow, it's just that you see, so what? And something like that. Yeah, I think that's how it changes somehow. Yeah.
My own experience after practicing Buddhism, I find myself much less agitated compared to my past. In the past, some simple stuff would really irritate me and I would really get violent, why is this person doing all this stuff? Yeah. But now I feel less reactive, so to speak. Also, another side effect is also I get less excited about the things I'm used to be excited to. Yeah, that is one side effect. Yeah. So my life will feel more like a very stable, not exactly flat line yet, but it's like a very more stable lines of emotional. In the past, it would look like this. emotional roller coaster. I get so excited and so happy, but then I also get so aversive and violent. Yeah. Anyway, I went too much of a time. Thanks a lot for all the sharing. Let's do a dedication. 燕消三障诸烦恼，愿得智慧真明了。普愿罪障悉消除，实是常行菩萨道。阿弥陀佛。Till we meet again, may we be guided by the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Have a non-grasping day ahead. And for those of you who would like to comment further, you can stay back if you want, or you can continue tomorrow. Yeah. But thanks everyone for participating. I'll see you guys again next time.
Thank you, Marcel.
Okay,
Actually, I will not be here tomorrow, so I just want to tell a story.
Okay, yeah, we'll stay back.
The other day, right, I was queuing up to buy vegetarian food, and it was the 15th series. So it was such a long queue, you know. So, you know, normally you get very agitated. I mean, in the queue, then the queue goes very slow. Then you start to observe the people. Then instead of just observing people, I'm observing myself. And this, I realized there's this lady standing in front. And then suddenly one woman cut queue and just stand behind her, you know, kind of thing. Then I see myself feeling angry and agitated, like how come this type of thing happened? Then after that I said, yeah, never mind lah, she's so old already, huh? We shouldn't, you know, we should give her the priority queue, you know, that kind of thing. So I calm myself down. After that, moving forward the queue a little while, I saw the lady talking to her. So actually they know each other. Yeah. So you see your mind always come up with the negative thing first.
Yes.
Negative. So we have to, you know, counter it. Yeah. So I realized in my daily life, you know, same way, you don't although that thought arise, you know, the same thought. Previously I also will feel, you know, agitated, but now I also feel agitated, but I don't react it. I observe it and I try to counter it. So I think eventually, if we really cultivate until we are very successful, that means we don't even get agitated when we see the woman going, you know, we just see that, oh, there's this lady just coming, you know, and we don't get affected. But now I still haven't reached that stage. So to really practice is really in everyday life. Look at when your sense, you know, you see something, you hear something, just look at how your mind reacts to it. Yeah. So it's the awareness. Firstly, we have to bring in this mindfulness and awareness to everything that we do. Yeah. That's what I want to share.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay,
Thank you, Sister Jolene.
you.
I like your
Bye-bye.
explanation. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. See you guys again.
Brother, have a good weekend.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.